It is the off season. That means it's time to do fixes, changes, performance improvements to the car to get it ready for the next racing season. Today, I'm going to start with the front suspension, namely the upper control arm bracket that I've built onto this car. So let's take a look back here real quick. You guys may have noticed that the shop is looking a little bit different. I've started to reorganize things. Before, if you remember, I had this L-shaped coming out into the middle here, which gave this little nice working area back here. Also, it just became like a storage area, and it kind of limited my front area of working space. Basically could fit the car, and that was about it. So kind of like how this setup is going. It's just I had a lot of stuff back here that I'm now trying to figure out where to put it. As you can kind of see, a lot of stuff is kind of sitting over there, not really with a final home, but we'll get there. But for now, I'm liking how this is working. It's just got some more organization to do. I've talked about it in previous videos, but this is my upper control arm bracket for the Mustang for the front suspension, which is the double wishbone that I designed and built on there. So this is the upper bracket that I had designed and built last year, and I'm going to do some changes. So for one, how it currently works is these bolts go through here. It has this sleeve that kind of goes in and locks it in. The problem is this little sleeve, which I could design one and get one machined up, but what this one is not designed for this use case, and they are cracking because they're just out of a material that is not designed for this. The next thing is they take up space. I'm finding that every little bit of space that I can get this thing closer to the frame is crucial to keep the car, to get the camber that I need, the negative camber, and to just keep everything kind of tucked in as best as I can. Yeah, I could modify the frame rail to either have something that bolts onto it or to allow this to go further in, but I'm trying to keep this as bolt-on as possible, and it allows me to, you know, easily take these off and change them up if I need to, or fix them or modify them or things like that. So I kind of like the bolt-on solution. The other thing is this, when I designed this plate, is just a little too far forward. I'm basically maxed out my caster adjustment that I have, so I need to move this whole plate a little bit backwards towards the rear of the car to get more caster adjustment. So that brings me to the new design. I've done a little bit of a tab and slot design in here to make this kind of fit up nicely and to give it a little bit more of a lock-in feature. As if you remember, the passenger side of this had kind of ripped apart, which I kind of fixed by doing welding on both sides, but this will help a little bit. I'll be able to do welding on both sides. Nice channels that this will sit into. Same with this one in here. We'll give a nice little channel that it can be welded. But this will move this this front plates back to allow more caster adjustment. But what it also does is changes up this bolt locking in mechanism. So I've gone with these carriage bolts, which have this square on there. So these just kind of will go in and lock in nicely. The only thing that is not as good for these ones is I can't quickly adjust these. As you can see, I have two different holes to be able to change up my roll center. It will take a little bit more work in order to do that. Now I'll have to basically pull this all the way off to where I can take the bolts out, because I can't actually slide them in between like I could on this one. Since I had this locking piece in there, I could basically only had to loosen up the upper arm just a little bit to be able to pull this out, and then I could just slide this thing anywhere I wanted and lock it in. So this design is really nice for that, for being able to do quick roll center tuning kind of things. But I've kind of gotten to the point where I've kind of found a roll center adjustment that I like. As you can see, I've only got 2 holes instead of the 3 holes that I had on that one. I've kind of found the 2 that are working out. It kind of depends on where the lower control arm, which hole it is in, because I got a couple different mounting holes for the lower control arm as well. So that is the plan for these. So let me get these kind of tacked up and we'll get them fitted on the car and see how well they actually will work on there. The plate is installed in here. Everything's just tacked together right now, but everything is bolted in nice and tight. It is pushed as close to the frame rail as it can go. These bolts are basically up against the frame rail, and it's basically as far in as it can go. These A-arms, these where the bearing is, sticks a little bit past where the A-arm plate is. So they are almost touching the frame rail. This one is actually touching this plastic, but you can see that it can still slightly move. Might have to cut that out to clearance that a little bit. Back here, there is just a little bit of clearance between the A-arm and the frame rail. Otherwise, to go any more further in, I'm gonna have to modify the frame rail to maybe do like a little pocket or something like that. But I don't think I'm going to go to quite that extreme. Plus, this upper A-arm is almost up against this coilover. So I'll probably have to change up the coilover mounting to give just a little bit more clearance. One of the next plans for this off season is to redesign the lower control arm, but we'll get to that in a later video. This one is just about this upper control arm bracket and upper arm, which I think I'm going to keep this upper arm. Might look into getting the one that has 0 degree for the ball joint. Right now this is a 10 degree one. I think the 0 degree one would be better for this setup, but we'll see. This worked for all last year. It should work for some more if I want, but that was one nice things for this A-arm. This is the Joe's Racing one, is all I gotta do is take out, you know, these 2 bolts on each side and this arm comes off. I could put a new one in. So that was one of the benefits of getting this, this setup, is I can easily change out these A-arms and not have to get a whole new one that has this bearing set up back here. This just unbolts and could put a new one on. So that is beneficial for that. So I think this A-arm setup is going to work. I did have to do a little bit of trimming up at the top. I forgot that I had to do that on the last ones, and when I designed these plates, I didn't really take that to account. Therefore, when I pushed it in, it was hitting up against the back here, and I needed to do some trimming to be able to get the plate all the way up against the frame rail, but it is in there really well now. Some other things, if you haven't watched all the other videos, I did cut off the pinch weld and re-weld it up, so if you were to do your own kind of thing, just know that there is a pinch weld here that sticks out a good probably ½ an inch. So that really limits how much you're able to push this arm in. So that is one thing that I did to modify the car itself to be able to do this. So just know that these won't just bolt on to any car. I did have to do modifications to the car, obviously, to get it to go on there. It looks like my changes all kind of worked out. I'm gonna have a better caster range adjustment. I got it closer in, so I got more negative camber. I am going to have to change up the lower control arm, but I was already changing that up for this off season as well, which I'll have in a future video coming up. So only thing that's left is to do a lot of welding and then do some painting. I had the ones before blue. Not sure if I'm going to do that color again. I'll kind of probably see what paint I already have and go with that. Try to do a little bit of coloring in there. Black gets so boring, you know? So time to do a lot of welding. Run out of welding wire right in the middle of welding, so I had to go get some more. I didn't have any 030, so I got 035, which will be good for this size thickness, but seems to always be something, you know. Has some engine paint left over in the cabinet, Plum Purple. So this is from when I painted the TDI engine that's in the Rabbit. So I had a little bit left over of that. So I figured that would be a good color to paint up these brackets. Engine paint is really strong, so that's one reason that I did it on here, just to give it a little bit extra protection. There will be a lot of scraping and things that go on installing these and then putting on the brackets. But let's get these installed. We can go ahead and probably try to get the car back onto the ground as well and see how it looks. I tried to get the car down on the ground, but as I kind of mentioned earlier, since I pulled the upper A-arm so much closer to the frame, I was now kind of hitting onto the coilovers. So gonna have to redesign the lower control arms, which I was already planning on doing. So we'll have to wait till then to get it fully on the ground. Right now it's still being held up by the jack a little bit because yeah, I'm starting to rub onto the coilovers, onto the springs of the coilovers pretty badly. So I don't want to damage that stuff too much more, but everything is good on the upper control arm bracket, I believe now. So now just to get everything torn back apart to start redesigning my lower control arms, which we'll do in a future video coming up. I'm still waiting on some parts to be delivered for that. So with that, thank you guys for watching. We will see you in the next one. A lot more progress coming up on this car very shortly. Later.